Shalom Aleichem, Nesanel Gantz.
Yankie Markowitz.
Yankee?
Yankee,
like the Yankees?
Just IE instead of EE.
Okay, tell me about your background,
This is not our first time meeting. So
yeah, but this is a whole much more formal setting.
Much more formal.
Tell me what SBA Loan Group, what is that you do?
SBA Loan Group helps businesses obtain financing through the SBA program primarily.
So explain that to me.
The SBA program was created in the 1960s, actually 1950s, but came into fruition in the 1960s, where the government wanted to help stimulate the economy and help small businesses grow. Banks did not want to lend money to the small businesses. So the government created the SBA program, the Small Business Administration, and they created a formula that if the bank follows this formula, they'll guarantee a certain percentage of the loan, depending on what type of loan we're talking about. And this incentivized banks to lend small businesses money. It could go up to $5 million in working capital, inventory purchasing, and when you're going to real estate, if you want to buy real estate, when I say real estate, I don't mean any general piece of real estate. It must be owner-occupied, which means you must be using it for your business. And in those scenarios, you can go up to $20, $30 million.
So for lack of a better term, you help the, I don't know if it's smaller people, but how am I now? The regular guys are trying to make a business, make a parnasa, not like the big dudes out there.
Well,
I'm sure you do that as well.
The range goes, yes. I'd say our mid-sized companies.
So I'll tell you why it's interesting to me. Yesterday, I actually was speaking to somebody, and he called me up and he says, can you help me? So I have a small business, I'm doing construction, and I need a loan to get me my feet. I said, would you ever consider, why don't you get a mainstream loan? You know, you're trying to ask your friends and it's uncomfortable. I can't, I don't have credit, whatever. So I think there's a certain amount of fear that people have when it comes to institutionalized lending, so to speak. Like when I say institutionalized, I mean professional, like going to a bank, so to speak. And is that what you're trying to eradicate?
I think that you're right in that sense. A lot of people have a fear. I always ask people, one of the first questions, if they're calling me, is that did you try going to your local bank? Or who do you bank with? If you bank with somebody for many years, and I see companies that
But they don't.
They do.
Okay.
Many of them do. Many of them have a banking relationship. If you're doing a few $1 million in sales, you have some type of banking relationship.
Yeah, I'm talking the guy who's starting off, you know what I'm saying?
The guy who's starting off, in all honesty, is not even for me.
Okay.
SBA does allow the program. They do have a program where you could get money to start a business, but the chances of that happening are
That's not right.
less
A
than
guy
5%.
who's going for a lot of people don't even know where to turn to. So since you mentioned that,
right.
how would you be
That's why I started the company.
So how would you be different than a bank?
I'm different than a bank because I'm not subject to the square boxes. You have over here a nice square box. Every bank has their standards, right? In every chassidus, they have a certain thing they're looking for, right?
It's Kislev yesterday.
It's Kislev, exactly. It was very nice. I was in Israel yesterday, and in the airport, on the plane, everybody came over and said Good Yontif. They knew right away. So, but everybody has their own tafkid of how they want to run their business, and banks are the same way. So, lav dafkid, you have one bank is a suitable fit for everybody, and you've heard stories where people get thrown out of banks. Why is that? It's not necessarily they did something wrong. It could be the bank decided we're too saturated in that industry. So,
it's obvious you're essentially a broker, right? So you deal with a lot of different banks. You get the best rate. How many people?
Lav dafkid the best rate. It's about getting the deal. In all honesty.
Explain that to me.
So
I like
a lot of times people say, I want the best rate, I want the best terms, No, but what do you have? A guy has a business in 1 year. Just started a business, he's 1 year in business. He thinks he's running the world. Because you're successful 1 year doesn't mean it's great.
I agree with you, but I want to stop you because assuming you said the deal is getting the deal. That's true, obviously he needs to get it. But if you can get the deal and someone else can get the deal, of course you'd like someone with a better rate.
So lav dafka you get a deal,
okay.
right?
So you say, fine. So your point is that you make sure it gets done. That's your niche.
So we have a policy. We get paid upon success, right? Some people we take a deposit sometimes, but that's not what it's about. I have to know that a deal could be done. If somebody comes to me and says, I want to build I want to get a loan and I want this and this rate, if it's more than that, I'm not interested. Depending on what their financials look like, if it's doable and I think it's doable, I'll say yes. But if not, I can tell you, this is what I could get for you. This is the worst case scenario. If you're okay with the worst case scenario, we could go weiter. If not.
How many people work in your company today?
About 15 to 20.
It's a lot of people. What do they do?
Many different situations. So some of them do the same thing as I do, which we take in deals, process it, analyze it, make sure it's viable. Some of us deal directly with the banks and only with the banks because you don't need to have that relationship.
You work on mostly word of mouth. I do marketing as well, but
marketing with Ami.
I want to ask you a question about that. Interesting, because you do put ad. You market in Ami magazine a lot.
That's your fault.
Well, that's not my fault.
That's your fault.
That's not my fault.
I'll tell you the truth.
Why?
Let's go back in time if we could tell a secret. I knew Ami existed, but I didn't know anything about you. Remember our first conversation? I said I don't know anything about this. I had an interview. From that interview, and you said you don't put up any website, you don't put up any number. So many people called me after that first lunch break. I'm like, my number wasn't posted. I do not realize how many people read it. So we said it's a good idea to start advertising in AMI and Baruch Hashem and many other magazines as well.
You have a very unique advertising method. In other words, it's kind of, I don't want to say childish.
You could say childish.
No, but because I happen to think it's a good theory, but it stands out in the fact that, hey, this is not like I believe that sometimes when everything is too fancy, they just let the page. They keep it going further. It's like, hey, I'm one of you guys, so trying to figure it out. Is that your intention?
So we tried the route of paying a company to put together nice advertisements, and they said, take out this, put that in, and it didn't work. But when I sat down and wrote it myself, and it could be a lot of spelling mistakes, that's fine.
It's not, I mean the design is...
Yeah, so the design is simple.
Specifically not fancy.
Yes, a lot of people come over and told me they feel like they're talking to me. They feel like they're talking to me. A lot of people tell me things like, I spent Friday night with you. I'm like, that's very nice, but spend time with your family. But I've had some people who said, oh, why don't you hire somebody? I said, did you get my number from there? You called me to complain about my ad? So why not?
What brought you here to the OJBA?
So we do a lot of trade shows, both in Yiddish market, non-Yiddish market, and we were with probably third or fourth year. And Baruch Hashem, they know how to turn a crowd. They have a big.
Have you actually gotten clients from here?
Yes.
For the OJBA?
Yes. We have a rule. If we come the first year, we'll test it out. If after the second year we don't get clients, we don't come back to the show.
Amazing. So tell me a client you got from OJBA.
A specific line?
Yeah.
A lighting company. That's one, but we got a lighting company. I had a demolition company. I had a general contractor.
All from the show.
All from the show.
That's an amazing thing.
Yes.
And what do you think is that what advice do you give to people? Like, well, how does your booth look like? Describe to me your booth.
My booth is very simple from the beginning, very similar to my advertising. I have a box of money. That's what we do. Right? There's a famous story, speaking of Yud Kislev, Shmuel Munkes was a very big chassid of the Alter Rebbe, and he was known to have a sense of humor. And one day, he walked by the Rebbe's house, and he was hanging from a tree. Not dead, but he was hanging from a tree. And I said, what are you doing? He said, you walk by the meat shop, you have meat in the windows, right? You walk by the clock shop, there's clocks in the windows. By the Rebbe, there should be a chassidim hanging.
Very good.
So we deal with money. We have money on the box. Simple what we do.
It's something to attract. But how do you deal with stress, Yankie?
How do I do it?
How do you deal with stress?
It's a good question. Still looking for the right method. You take a breather. You stop whatever you're doing. Me personally, stop whatever I'm doing. Maybe I'll take a coffee or a glass of water. Try to clear my mind, and then try to break down what is causing my stress, and try to fix it.
What was the biggest disaster? Let me see, I have no answer. What was the biggest disaster you ever had in your business and had to get through it? The biggest disaster.
Biggest disaster? COVID.
Ooh, let's hear it.
COVID came, and there were probably 9 loans that certain banks backed out. They said we're not doing any loans.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is March of 2020, and they just backed out of the loans. We're talking about close to $100 million worth of deals. And we had to start over and get different banks to put in its place. Baruch Hashem, we have a nice variety of banks we work with.
Yeah, that's not you to mess up. I want something that you messed up.
Oh, that I messed up on?
Something you messed up on.
Is it egotistical to say that I don't mess up?
Yeah, no, it is, but fine.
The biggest mess up that I did, I have to think about this. I should have sent out questions before.
No problem. Definitely we're schmoozing. I always say it's imagine you having fun bringing it.
The biggest mess up that I did actually happened about a year ago, I'd say, and it was a specific deal without going too much into detail.
For sure.
SBA would either go one way or the other. I knew it would be either or, and it would get approved. One way would be cheaper for the client, and one way would be more expensive for the client. So I told the bank, whatever I'm charging the client as a fee, I'll put that up. In other words, this is going to for sure happen.
Right. In other words, yeah.
And it went a bad way, and my fee went to.
And they took it.
And I didn't make any money.
Oh wow! And you lost money essentially.
I lost money. Yes,
Wow.
Lost my time. That was my I'd say the biggest mess up. Nice. But if not that, the client wouldn't have the deal. So.
What would you say to people who, like, you know, in your business, it's really a need by it's a need by basis, right? Meaning, it's not like say, hey, you know, yeah, what's going on? Let's schmooze. No, it's when someone needs you, they gotta be in your brain, right?
So you deal with a lot of businesses. You speak to a lot of business owners, so you know that. A lot of people when they get pushed up against the wall and they need the money, no one wants to give you money at that point. So a lot of my business is educating clients before you get pushed against the wall. You have to be prepared. Financials are very important. People are on top of their financials, and you have to. When you want money, no one's going to give it to you. I'm sorry. When you need money, no one's going to give it to you. If you talk and need it, yes, you could finagle here and there. You have to be prepared for it. So now, I think there's going to be some sort of a depression or decline in the economy.
My question was, when someone needs money or wants money.
Yeah. Wants and needs are two different.
I got you, but they want. They have to. You have to be in their head. How do you make sure you're in the client's head? In other words, if I'm talking to you right now, right? In 3 months I need money, I have to think of you or the other people who are loan people, right?
So how am I getting? How do
you
I make
speak into
myself
people's heads? Yeah. You
One,
schmack a beard and your whole look. Yeah.
Schmack a beard. It's a beard.
It's a beard.
So one thing
I have a beard. You have a beard. All right.
Well, thank you. My Zayda will be proud.
No problem.
One thing is, you continuously do marketing. I'm continuously at these trade shows. Again, if it doesn't work, there's no point to be there. And a lot of referrals. Baruch Hashem, literally today I spoke to 4 different people that were referred to me by other, and I don't remember who those people are. But you're like, oh, sure, Chaim Yankel, yeah. And referrals. So I am in a business where everybody wants money. Everybody wants money. Not everybody needs money. Some people do. If your name is out there, and Baruch Hashem, we have a good name, and you do the right thing by clients, I think it stays in people's mind.
Yankie, it's a pleasure seeing you again. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.